Welcome to News with a View, a fatcatproduction.com. This is June 1st, 2025, and this is episode 73. Now, I've been giving people over, I'd say, about 85 hours of content. And I appreciate all 12 of you people who watch it. No, actually, I have more. But yeah. Today, be talking about the U.S. senators and two senators from the state senators from California. Said they want to investigate CBS Paramount or Paramount CBS in any of their dealings in the civil suit with President Trump. And I'll get into that in a second on why. And the other thing I want to talk about, Tim Walz urges fellow Democrats to get meaner. Yep. And then that will segue right into multiple people set on fire at an anti-Semitic attack in Colorado. So, I'm going to dwell into that and drill into that and flop around in that. Because, just like, well, I'm not going to get, because now I'm leading into that, and I do not want to do that again. All right, let's now go to my favorite camera. And let's talk about U.S. Senators warn Paramount's Sherry Redstone that settling Trump's CBS lawsuit could be bribery. What I see the senators here, both the state senators from California and our senators in the federal level, borders not so much on extortion, but blackmail. We all know why the suit against CBS in 60 Minutes was filed and allowed so far by the courts. So there's no bribery going on here. And again, as I said in a couple of episodes so far, that settling a civil suit, I mean, that's done all the time. And just because the president's involved doesn't take away his right to a settlement. Now, if these senators turn around and can prove, or CBS can prove, that, Trump said, hey, you either settle with me or this deal is off the table, I'll make sure the FCC squashes it, then you'd have an absolute case to say any settlement then would be bribery with extortion. We're going to, we're going to blackmail you. We're going to, it would be extortion. Wouldn't even be bribery if it would be extortion. Now, it would be bribery if CBS, Paramount went to Donald Trump and said, listen, we'll pay you $35 million, but we want the sale to Skydance to go through without any blips from the FCC. And then we'll gladly pay you this money. That would be bribery. That would be bribery under quid pro quo. This for that. Now, if they could prove that, then by all means, then yeah, go after him. Go after the president. Do you think, as crazy as you Democrats are, that would happen? That CBS, one of the leaders of the left, would do that? Do you think that would not come out somewhere? And for these people, there's Elizabeth Warren, Ron Wyden, and Bernie Sanders, the most seasoned of anti-Republican and even more so rabid opponents of President Trump, are engaging in blackmail and extortion. They're going to tell Paramount that you can't settle with Trump, and you can't. You have to let it go to court. Well, we have to examine everything. We have to look at it. There's no legal precedent for them to make that claim. There's no reason to say, hey, we might have to look at this. There's none. There is none. And I think by the senators doing this, and the senators from California with Senator Thomas Umberg and Josh Becker, suggest that a settlement could violate the state and federal law, as well as a chilling effect on investigative and political journalism. No, this chilling effect is you can't make stuff up. And do you understand that's what this lawsuit's about? It's taking what candidate Harris had said and manipulating the words around to fit an agenda. And that was not the interview. This wasn't cut down, allegedly, to fit in a 30-minute program, and there were 75 minutes of words. And we're going to take the meat and potatoes, and this was not the case. This was the case that what she was saying was nonsense, and they had to rearrange it to make it sound logical. It's fake news, folks. And that's manipulation. Now, even though she said, hey, yeah, go ahead, you could sweeten it up, do what you're going to need to do. when CBS was confronted with this, CBS said, no, we didn't edit it. Nothing more than we normally do. Because everything gets edited. And, let's face it, that's the way it has to be. But when they said we did not change the context, well, yes, she said 60 words, and we produced 60 words. Just you didn't produce them in the order that they were spoken. In today's world, that's very easy to do. And just so you know, this is why during interviews, you'll never see a clock on a wall. Because the thing would be, all skewed, because there is no order of time. It's however they want to arrange it. So you'll never see a clock on a wall of any interview. Because what you see is not what you get. And you'd be going, hold it, the clock just said 2 o'clock. Now it says 2:45. And then went back to 2:20. Because they'd be editing it. And there are legitimate reasons why that might be the case. But in this case, the damaged party, Trump, said that those words were rearranged. And this was not a political, it turned into a political commercial. And, to be fair with CBS, they offered Trump time. They said, hey, you want equal time, we'll give you equal time. That was done. And, he turned it down because he knows what happened the last time they interviewed him. So, Skydance Media wants a lot of these lawsuits that are sitting there with CBS settled. Some won't be because, it's work-related, an ex-employee suing or something, that is trivial. It's pennies. Where they might even tell them, hey, settle with this guy. We need you to settle all these. We looked at them. This one's a dog. This one's a dog. That one, yeah, all right, yeah. You don't have to do that. We'll assume some of that. But what these senators are alleging is that there's a deal. There's a deal with Trump. And there is no deal. And they know there's no deal because Paramount's legal arm would never do that. They would never go down that road. And you can't tell someone not to settle a civil lawsuit. You don't even need a lawsuit to have a settlement. I could go into a company where I was wronged, and the company knows it. We're in trouble. So before it goes to any type of suit, offer them a settlement with a non-disclosure. In that non-disclosure, you can't come back here and sue your family. No one can come back 10 years from now. It's over. Done. You've settled this. Now, NDAs can be undone because you can't use an NDA. Because of our negligence and violation of OSHA laws, someone got crushed to death. And we don't want that going out. So we're going to offer you $10 million right now. Our heartfelt sympathies. But you can't sue us. You can't go to the news. You can't go to anyone. You can't do it. Now, if OSHA would walk in there and go, well, hold it. Didn't someone have an accident here and stuff? And when they're looking at it and go, whoa, you violated the law. And that person was killed. They can undo that. They could go in and say, you can testify on what you know. The wife, could then say, every day my departed Joe would come home and tell me how this was hanging, and they went and they tried to have it fixed, and the company said, no, too much money, and that's what broke, and I don't have Joe anymore. Whereas if she went to the news with that, the NDA would grab that money back. Now, again, if it's, you can't make something illegal legal by an NDA. So, but what's going on here is truly extortion and intimidation by the senators. And if I was Paramount or Trump, I'd be all over them. I'd go to a judge and go, gag these people up. Yes, they have free speech, but now they're using that as intimidation to try to screw a deal. If because of this, what's going on and everything, and these false allegations, because unless they have proof of something, they're just allegations, CBS would drop 10%. And now Sundance goes, well, I know we were going to give you $20 billion for this company. Now, we're going to give you 15. Because of the actions that these people took, who they can't be sued. It's a problem. It's a problem. And it is government intimidation and a corruption of the trust and power that these people hold. And if you want to talk about the true threat to democracy, again, it's the freaking Democrats. And I try to be objective. I try to look and I go, yeah, I know how this looks and everything, but President Trump has all the legal rights any other citizen has. Paramount has all the legal rights that they have. And one of those legal rights is the right to settlement. And they don't have to explain, as long as it's not hiding an illegal activity. And all parties sign papers when this stuff happens under penalty of perjury, under penalty of the law, that all the actions, to the best of our knowledge, does not violate any state laws or federal laws. And that's it. So what these people are doing is extortion, intimidation, and singling out a company. ABC settled with Trump. They settled. And they could have settled with him because it was better than, dragging this thing out. And, what happens during the discovery, which is a little different than it is in a criminal case as it is with a civil case, because you could take depositions and you could use them, and it's a lot different. And also, the caliber of evidence doesn't have to match that of a criminal. There is no beyond a reasonable doubt. There isn't. Civil. U.S. OJ had that worked out for him. So, and Paramount has denied any link between the litigation and the merger's approval process. So they've already took a stand to say nothing like this happened. There was none of this. Key elements of bribery: quid pro quo, a direct exchange of something of value for an official act. And this is in the federal, this is for politicians and things like that. The intent to influence. A bribe must be given with the intent to influence an official act or to commit fraud. So like I said, unless they can say Trump came to us and said, you didn't pay me this money, you won't be able to sell a newspaper in front of your building. Forget about selling your building and your Fakaka news, and you won't even be able to have a tag sale unless you pay me. See, that's not a bribe, that's an extortion, and it's a whole different ball game. But unless Paramount goes there and says, hey, all right, you open the door, this is what's going on. Now, at that point, why would they even settle with Trump? Why wouldn't they just go right there and go, hey, we got 19 people in the room here who witnessed to that? And even if Trump said, hey, you want to see who can play games? We'll play games. That too could be construed. So this is where I said, none of that happened. This is just Warren and Sanders and Wyden, who is the scummiest, another lowlife. Who, just because it's Trump, we're going to throw it out there. We're going to pour sand into the gearbox. They should be censured, they should be reeled in and go, stay out of this. We have an FCC. They're the ones that are going to make the recommendation. If they think there's anything afoul, they're going to go to the Department of Justice. You know, we have procedures. You don't like them, but you can't go out there and start intimidating companies. You cannot do that. And they could turn around and go, well, we weren't saying it. We were just suggesting it could be. It might be. Yeah. I'm playing the bullshit card here. What you're doing is using your status in government as intimidation. Because they're saying, we're going to have the FCC investigate you. We're going to hold this deal up until we look at every slip of paper. And they'll use the thing, we don't know what we don't know. The other side will say, well, if you want to go fishing the waters that way. And again, that's what the Democrats were doing. That's what the Republicans did to Bill Clinton during Whitewater. Couldn't find anything with Whitewater. Ken Starr couldn't find anything. Got nothing to report. But I want to investigate further because I asked them stuff and I got squirrely answers. But it had nothing to do with Whitewater. And that was a mistake the Republicans made. I've said it before. I will call them as I see them. All right. The other item in there, the key elements of the bribery, was something of value. The bribe can be cash, gifts, or other benefits. You asked ex-Senator Menendez about that. And that last one, or other benefits, junkets, free flights, free use of airplanes. The political people must be so careful. It's why the police, for years, in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, we'd tell cops you can't go into a restaurant. Yeah, we'd go into a pizza shop and the guy, hey, you don't have to pay. I see you every day. You come up the street. You make sure the neighborhood's good. Okay. What do you want? A meatball hero? A soda? I got some cannolis in the back. You like cannolis. Who doesn't like cannolis? And they had to stop that. Or you'd go into the diner and the cop would go, I need an egg sandwich and a coffee. You know, let me, you know. No. Because that was a benefit. And they could turn around and they go, hey, listen, Officer Joe, you come in every day for lunch. I never ask you. I know you offer, but I never ask you. I got a problem over here. That's where it becomes a conflict. So there are reasons why all of a sudden it says gifts or other benefits. My sandwich wasn't a gift, but it was a benefit. It was a benefit that I was wearing a badge and got it for free. So it's not hard. It's not a very steep hill for people to climb up to say, hey, you got a benefit. Now, the benefit doesn't have to go to the politician. The benefit could be the other way around. The benefit could be going to a company like CBS. And for them to say, well, I'm just warning you on it, how it looks, hey, you're not our attorneys. That's what I'm paying them, $10 million a year for. Take care of your state. Don't worry too bad about me. And California could go in there because their CBS is in California. They have business there and dealing, so they got a right to clamor. Yipe. This won't go anywhere. It won't go anywhere. It's a stupid thing for them to do. And I keep saying Democrats keep going on stupid things. On tangents they can't possibly turn into gold. It's lead, and you think you're an alchemist and you can turn that into gold. You can't. All right. This is going to be an interesting weave come Monday on Minnesota governor over the weekend. Well, maybe it could have been over the week. Could have been Friday or Thursday, Friday. But Tim Walz urged fellow Democrats to get meaner. We're not mean enough. Maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little bit more fierce. Well, let's brush that away, Tim. How about being a little bit more brighter and smarter and logical and reasonable and civil? How about that? That ever come to your mind? Huh, Tim? Who would think your son would be the brains of the outfit? To come out there and say that. Now, in context, he did not say to get more violent. If you listen to his whole speech, that was not the gist of his speech. He was saying, and when Trump would, during the campaign, would attack the opposition, for lack of a better word, they would try to take the high road and say, that's just more of his rhetoric. This is, boom, boom. This is our plan. This is what we've done in the last 4 years. This is what we want. But they didn't do that. They just, they went off on their own. Would they had done saying, this is what our plan is, this is what his plan is, they didn't. They didn't. And Biden had even said, hey, the only way you have a chance here is locking into exactly what I would do in my second term. My plan became your plan. And Harris tried to reinvent herself in the small amount of time that she had. There couldn't have been a possible way that she stood a chance. And it was closer than, you know, I knew Trump was going to win, and I almost nailed it. I almost nailed it on the electoral college vote. I didn't think that he'd take Wisconsin, but I knew it was going to be close. I knew the blue wall, there was no such thing as the blue wall. Just wasn't going to happen. So when Tim Walz was saying to get meaner, he wasn't talking about getting violent or more fierce. His stance was to stand up and also then be not controversial, but to stand up to when people say, you know, bad things about them, to come right back at them. And, you know, instead of taking the high road, you know, you swing at me, I'm swinging at you. Now, Walz was not the best choice. We all knew that. Everyone looked at him. But if Shapiro would have run and with him, and they knew Harris was going to lose. It just wasn't going to carry. The DNC screwed the pooch. So there was just no way Shapiro was going to say and then tarnish his, you know, say, I'll run because it's the best thing for the party, and maybe, you know, it will be closer, maybe we won't lose some seats, maybe, you know, but he didn't. He said, you know, no. You guys did this. You guys fall on the sword. I'm looking at a possible VP run. I'm looking at a possible presidential run. And you know, some of the people bowed out. And that was the end of that. But this ties in, and this is going to tie in to tomorrow. I'll tell you why. Because the media is only going to say, urges fellow Democrats to get meaner. Okay? Multiple people set on fire in an anti-Semitic attack in Colorado today. I think they said 7 people, 8 people. A man reportedly set people on fire, injuring those who gathered for a demonstration in support of Israeli hostages. A suspect is in custody, and police are investigating what FBI's officials immediately called a targeted terrorist attack. Though local authorities said it was too early to define the attack and that the motives remained under investigation. All right. Now, Chief Stephen Redfern said Sunday that we arrived, we encountered multiple victims with injuries consistent with burns. All right. The man threw bottles that apparently contained flammable liquid and hit the ground and exploded in flames. Multiple law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation told CNN, noting the exact number of bottles was unclear. I'm going to figure that if he didn't come in with a knapsack or anything like that, or a shopping bag. That it was 2 bottles. All right. So this took place at the Boulder Run for Their Lives event. The Anti-Defamation League said on social media, the weekly gathering of Jewish community members is meant to support the hostage taken during the October 7th attacks in Israel in 2023. All right. Democrats need to get meaner. The FBI identified Mohammed Sabray Salman as the man responsible for the attack in Boulder on Sunday afternoon, local time. 6 victims aged 67 to 88 were transported to local hospitals after Solomon used a makeshift flamethrower and hurled incendiary devices, firebombs, devices into the crowd, and was heard shouting "Free Palestine" during the attack. 4 of the victims were taken to local hospitals. 2 others were airlifted to Aurora Hospital Burn Unit. All 6 victims are still being treated, with 1 listed with serious injuries while the others received minor injuries. FBI Director Kash Patel, in a post on X, referred to the attack as a targeted terror attack. But Boulder Police Chief said at an earlier press conference and briefing, it would be irresponsible for me to speculate on the motive on this this early on. I don't know, Free Palestine, and I'm going to set Jews on fire. Well, the chief could have said, it's looking like an alleged or possible terror attack. Since this was targeted at Jewish people at a Jewish rally supporting Israel, and the guy that threw the bombs and used the flamethrower was screaming, "Free Palestine." I think that would be pretty easy lift for any reasonable person to get to say, yeah, it was a terror attack. And for Colorado to sit there again and go, no, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, we don't know, I don't want to say anything. Come on, people. Come on. And they will say, was this guy told to get meaner? Was this what fierce? Maybe that's not what Tim Walz meant, but maybe that's what this guy heard. Don't know. But the media's going to run with it. And there'll be the 5 seconds snippet of when he said this. And no 4 minutes in the front or 4 minutes at the back. So, Democrats, be warned. Be warned. And let me tell you, Tim Walz, people are going to be stepping away from this guy. He's out there meandering about like, he's a presidential hopeful that they're going to put Harris and him back together again. I mean, it's not Martin and Lewis. At least those guys were funny. These guys are dangerous. So, we're so far away But they really should not take the losers of the race and start parading them around as if, they are the heroes. Whereas they did such a lousy job campaigning. And it wasn't that they did it. Their handlers, which are the people that they would then surround themselves with, did such a lousy job. That, would you trust them? I wouldn't trust them. I mean, I trust Trump to do what he says, just as I trusted Ronald Reagan to do what he said. And that's why on a foreign on the foreign policy and our how we handled foreign affairs during Reagan was great, because if he said this is what's going to happen if you do this, then he did it. Now, there was a lot of things in the Reagan administration, the Iran-Contra deals, the guns, there was a lot of under-the-table shenanigans going on. But that was, politics in the Beltway. I'm sure there was a lot of that under Biden, under Obama, under Clinton, under Bush, under Trump. The Trump is a little bit more forward about it. He's not embarrassed to say, yeah, we gave them the bombs to drop on them. What do you think I gave it to him for? The polish? To look shiny? No. He takes a different look at things. And I'm going to close this up in a couple of minutes. With Trump, he's a short-term holder. He gets things presented to him, and he goes, "Yeah, that's a good idea." He doesn't think of this stuff. He wasn't like, I woke up today, and I think I'm going to open up casinos. That didn't happen. It was an approach. Buying buildings. He didn't wake up one day and go, I think that's the building I'm going to buy over there. No, people come up and go, hey, this is a really good opportunity. Needs money. Boom, boom. Cut the deal. But he's a short-term player. He doesn't hold on to things long. The minute they're not shiny anymore, off it goes. So you have to look at the personality of the people you're dealing with and understand that Trump's not thinking 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. He's looking 2 years, 4 years. Because that's his nature. He's not going, well, in 10 years this company's going to be really going to be moving along here. He doesn't do that. I mean, honestly, other than his hotels and other things, and even that he was selling back and forth, and he's not a long-term player. And even with his crypto and stuff, he's not going to be in there long. That's a short-term Like I said, once it's not as shiny, and he's played with the toys a couple of times. That's it. He moves on. Someone else brings him something, and that rolls a red ball in front of him. Now he's chasing the red ball. So, and that's not to knock him. That's just to say, hey, if you're going to deal with these type of people, you better know who you're dealing with and how to deal with them. Very intelligent. People, oh, he's dumb. Yeah, you keep thinking that. You keep thinking that. You think you're 3 steps in front of them? And you think we'll outsmart him. We're in front of him. You're 6 steps back. He has people in places, and he's just holding back. He is just holding back. People want him to expose the deep state. He can't do that right away. We would have loved that on day one. He just threw all the paperwork out there, and but it would be indigestible. The media would get overloaded with it. People would get overloaded with it, and they do. I just can't. I just can't take all that information in. All I want is my eggs to be $1.49 again. Make that happen. Make gas come down under $2.20 a gallon. That's something I could see right in front of me. And the other stuff, yeah, Epstein. What do you think you're going to learn about Epstein? Honestly, what in God's name do you think was in the Kennedy file? You think there was a secret letter in there going, someday someone opened this letter, this contains the truth? Those files were cherry-picked in 1964 and 65. We'll never know what really happened. And whatever we do know is whatever they wanted us to know. Martin Luther King. Same thing. Bobby Kennedy. Same thing. These things, they've been years. Everyone's hands over them. You got a better chance of finding out if Roswell was real than finding out what happened with Kennedy. So, it makes for good print. It makes for good reading. But other than that, you'll never find out. And, my belief is Epstein's on some island somewhere. But that's me. Oh, we found a body. We have this. Yeah, fine. Good. There's lots of things they could do. Like I said, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. It just amazes me that one of the most secure federal facilities we have in the United States, no one was on shift. We just locked these people up and went home for the day. Can you honestly believe that? That both guys that were supposed to be there or whatever, how are they? One went this way, one went that way. They're gone. They're in the wind somewhere. You ever hear about those 2 officers that were there? I bet you can't even remember their names. How could they both not be there? How could a supervisor not know they called in sick or something happened? Enough. What it means is you'll never, ever know the truth. Was Bill Clinton on that island? Was Bill Gates on that island? It was a place of where people could not normally meet other people. You might not have had Mr. X from this country that could go up to Mr. Y of that country and have a conversation because of the eyeballs and everyone else. But they're flown in, secret. You know, you don't think that Epstein was not a CIA asset? A KGB asset? An MI6 asset? A Chinese asset? A North Korean asset? This guy had all the contacts. He was more valuable to all those players alive, not in jail. Because he wasn't playing chess. He was getting those people together that normally would never be able to get together. He was the middleman. Did he have girls on the island? Yes, they were all adults. They were all adults. No one was forced. They said, well, those young women were manipulated. Well, you know what? A lot of young women get manipulated. Go in any bar at 2 a.m. So, and with that, I'm going to say goodnight. I got to edit this up tonight. I'm going to do a real quick edit job on this. And push it out the door by like 1 a.m. Because tomorrow I know I'll be doing an episode. Trying to get out the episodes. Trying to redo it. Boy, I thought I was going to have my website up today. I'm just having a problem moving domain names around. If you go to fatcatproductions.com, you'll go to a page that looks stripped down because I've been moving stuff. But I have to wait for the registrant of my domain to allow it to be moved to a new, placeholder. And normally that's pretty easy to do. I don't understand what I did wrong with it. It didn't. If you go fatcatproduction.com, it should take you to my new site. It keeps taking me to the old site, even though on the new site it's all linked and all the numbers are right. So I don't know. I have to call those people up in the morning, and probably will cost me some bucks to have them do it, and so I don't have to. But that's what's going to be done. All right. Good night. Say a prayer. Anyone that went to Socrates Station today for the fundraiser for Meals on Wheels, thank you. It was a very good turnout. Give to a charity, give to a food bank. Know the charity you're dealing with. Don't become a victim helping a victim. Again, say a prayer. Prayer does work. And good night, Danielle, Paul, Chris, Rowan, Cannoli. If Joey or Samantha, which I don't see why they would be watching this show, but if they're watching, hello. I'll be back in touch. I was in touch with my little Sammy girl. And of course, Grandma's always in touch with Joey. All right, with that, I'm going to say good night. And as I try to fade to black here.